Hello, my name is Anna Lagigna. I am a secondary teacher of English as a foreign language in Udine, northern Italy. I teach at a high school where students age between 14 and 19. Many families of my students have been in our country only for a few years. Some of them don't speak Italian very well. A good number, on average 3 or 4 per class, have disabilities or special needs, like for example dyslexia or dysgraphia. My first experiences with personalizing teaching and learning date back to some years ago and were aimed at providing support to students with special needs in my English classroom. Many of them often found it difficult to follow traditional lessons, especially when learning activities focused exclusively on textbooks and standardized drills. As a result, they often felt frustrated and could sometimes get fussy or loud. On the other hand, strong students and fast finishers easily got bored and became disengaged. I started by allowing students to use their smartphones in class for listening activities. Instead of playing audio files on a traditional tape recorder, I would first ask them to download the MP3 files on their smartphones and do the activities individually in class. This provided opportunities for flexible learning, adapted to their learning styles and pace. It was my first attempt at a non-teacher-led approach, and it proved quite effective at raising both the kids' sense of independence and responsibility in their learning, as well as their overall achievement. Instead of having a teacher always telling what to do and what to learn, they were responsible for what they were doing and of how fast they could do it. Moreover, they could do it also from home. I thus went on. I began creating QR codes for other resources such as videos from YouTube, informative websites, and extra practice activities. I would print out QR codes and give them to kids so that they could directly access these resources through their smartphones or tablets. They really enjoyed this new way of learning. Sometimes I would formulate guiding questions or polls to be answered individually for homework and then group students to discuss their results and findings together. At other times, we played a round of quiz games on Kahoot or Socrates for a quick check in class as a form of formative assessment. I have often recorded assignment explanations and video tutorials on how to use digital tools for specific tasks. Students can refer back to these later in the assignment to make sure they have fully understood the task, and parents or other support teachers can also view them from home. Students and parents on the whole have welcomed this new approach. To have students with analyzing and studying more complex texts and resources in the English language, like for example in literature or on the history of British culture, I have often created podcasts using apps such as Spreaker or SoundCloud for recording lessons and providing explanations using a flipped classroom approach. My students appreciate the possibility of simultaneously reading their textbooks and listening to their own teacher guiding them through the tasks and providing help with the new vocabulary and comprehension. Initially, podcasts were meant for students with dyslexia, but they turned out to be useful to the whole class. I must admit that, probably because of my little experience in this field and no co-teaching or co-designing with other teachers, the planning of engaging student-centered activities has been quite demanding and time-consuming, especially in the beginning. However, after seeing what most of my students could achieve, it was absolutely worth doing. A positive shift in personalizing learning occurred when I first tried to give my students voice and choice in co-designing inquiry-based projects. I started by asking them questions about what and how they would prefer learning a new topic. What would be their favorite types of lessons and their favorite in-class activities? Which methods of instruction would better suit their learning styles? The majority of them answered that video mini-lessons and group work in class were their favorites. A great experience in personalizing learning was when we decided to carry out a project on heroes of our times. My aim was to foster thoughtful, deliberate practice and creative use of the foreign language in a meaningful contest by tapping into students' personal questions, values and passions. I offered a set of options in order to encourage students to take their projects from concept to completion following some guidelines. We started by brainstorming ideas on the basis of a what do you want to learn, what do you need to learn plan on Padlet, what did they know already, what would they need to investigate, what questions would they need to ask themselves, where and how would they find answers. Students were free to decide who they preferred working with. Some worked in small groups, others preferred working individually. Goals and objectives were discussed in class and set ahead in a commonly agreed rubric. Initially, I was a bit worried about equity and inclusivity in class because students had set pretty high expectations which some struggling students might not be able to accomplish. As I did not want to simply dumb down to lower standards, I provided students with some scaffolding while they were already working on their projects. Along with personalized feedback and editing of their work on Edmodo or Google Docs, I help students understand or process information when in need, however, while also leaving them to proceed with their own learning. In order to encourage metacognitive reflection about their learning process, I created opportunities for students to collect their thoughts about their work through blogging. They could reflect on important lessons and set goals for further learning on their digital portfolios. I think that personalized learning had a significant impact on my students because they could get their voice heard, make decisions on how to present what they had learned, and create something authentic to demonstrate their understanding of content with the use of technology, not merely written questions and reports, but presentations, videos, infographics, and posters. Personalizing learning proved beneficial to my students, not only in terms of school performance and improved language competence, but above all in terms of motivation and self-efficacy. They could work at their own pace, engage actively with content they needed to understand, and use their creativity. As a teacher, I hope this approach has helped students become better independent learners and guided them on their own path of discovery through stimulating their curiosity and joy for learning. Thank you for your attention. Goodbye.